Greetings, everybody, and so sorry for the weird lighting. I'm working with what I got. I am Fire Lotus for the people that do not know. I've been doing these for about 3 years now. And in these episodes, we go over literally everything to do with spirituality, witchcraft, and paranormal, even conspiracy theories. I did want to go ahead and say if you hear a dog or a cat, if you hear a cat meowing, sorry, that's my familiar. He does that from time to time. If you hear a dog barking, that's my neighbor's dog. There's nothing I can do about it. Um, Now, originally, I was not going to go live today. I was actually going to, excuse me, I was actually going to interview Jake Richards from Backwoods Witchcraft. But, due to a couple of things that he's got going on in his life, we had to reschedule for another date. So as soon as I get that, I will let everybody know. Good morning. So yeah, that's why I'm actually doing a live today. I didn't do one yesterday because I was researching, kind of resting, and also doing a couple things around the house as well. Now I may have to get up and turn on the actual light above me, which I'm probably already going to do because I'm going to read a couple of things out of this book right here. Primarily a couple of people that like are real. So hold that thought. There we go. I don't really know how well. Oh, yep, no. There we go. Okay. So, but yeah, I was going to interview him. That still is going to happen. It's just been kind of pushed back a few days, possibly a week. And then coming up, I also let me check my calendar. On the 11th, May 11th, I'll be interviewing Brian for the podcast, and he's a traditional witch. Now, I'm still planning on pushing over or bringing over some of the TikToks that I've been doing. I just don't know which ones to do, and I've almost done like 100 of them. So I don't know which ones to do because a lot of the things that I talk about in these, basically I wound up making a TikTok about anyways. And I'm trying to think of anything recently that I talked about. Actually, no, there are a couple of good conversations going around in the witchy community currently right now. Primarily about shadow work and how it's not actually necessary. And primarily if you have somebody coming to you telling you need to do shadow work, you need to stay the hell away from them. Because normally if you're being told to do shadow work, then you don't actually need it. A lot of people for some reason have been putting an emphasis on shadow work. And if you don't know what shadow work is basically everything about you that you find negative or you don't like, whether that's insecurities, anger issues, trauma, or anything like that. That's basically your shadow side. And a lot of practices teach, and some spiritual faiths teach, that in order to become fully balanced and like fully harmonious, you have to basically overcome that shadow. It's kind of like that saying, it's kind of like that saying where I stopped fighting with my demons and we work together now. That's the same thing. The problem is with this, and then I'm also going to give an example of something my partner asked me yesterday, and the reason that I said I'll get into that. This ties into that question as well. Blessed be, with shadow work, especially if you're telling somebody to do shadow work and you fully don't like know them in real life or like outside of a screen, shadow work, especially for anyone who has severe types of trauma, it can trigger that. It's the same thing of what I talked about with past life regression. You're going to wind up revealing something that there's a reason your body or brain is trying to like coax it, trying to hide it from you because you cannot process it. If you tell someone to go do shadow work, it could trigger a depressive episode. It could trigger a PTSD episode. For people who have borderline personality disorder, it can cause an episode in that. It can cause an episode in DID. So many things that it can go wrong with. Normally, in my practice, from what I realized, whoever you work with, whether that's ancestors, spirits, or deities, they will... Good morning. It's chilly here this morning. How's the weather going in Florida? kind of weird. Like this morning, it was in the 60s, which I find chilling, but we're supposed to hit the 90s today. And currently, right now, it's in that weird mix between like it's not really hot, but it's not really cold. It's in that weird little mix. Um, but with shadow work, you can wind up triggering something. And in my practice, you'll know you need to start doing shadow work when your guides, your ancestors, or your deities basically start telling you, hey, there are a couple of things we need to work on. That's when you'll do it. But starting out first thing in your practice, that is not something you need to do. Um, and to play into that, the reason with certain spells, whether they are healing or positive or negative, and they actually go over it a little bit in the Cricket Path, but my partner asked if I had recently done a healing spell on him. And I said, no. Why would you ask that? That's not the point of why he asked me. But what I told him is the reason I didn't. When it comes to healing spells, depending on what you're trying to heal, you need to realize and to think how that's mentally going to affect the other person. And I'd never really thought about that until somebody had actually brought it up on TikTok of like, you know, when the people do the videos that are charged with Reiki healing energy, you don't know what that person on the other side of the screen has went through, and it could trigger an episode with them. But that's something to think about in your craft. And now to get into something that blew my mind, a person actually who blew my mind. His name is, he's known as the Red Fox, or his name in general is Marshall Benton Taylor of Wise County, Virginia, the dreaded Red Fox. Now, when I tell y'all, like, this got me super excited. Exactly. And see, most people do. Most people that I know who works with Reiki, they ask before they do it. But on TikTok, they'll charge a video with it, so whoever sees it will, like, basically be affected by it. And I'm against that. Like, I mean, depending on the spell, like, there are certain things I will do with my partner or on my partner without me having to ask him. Like, if it's good luck or for him to have a good day or something like that, I won't ask, I just do. But if it's anything to do with the psyche or the body, I'm going to ask him and be like, yo, are you sure you want me to do this? Because recently he asked me to do something, and I'm like, with the planets that are currently acting up right now, we need to think about this before we do this. Because I told him, I was like, I may be the one that's doing the spell, and yeah, some of that's going to come back on me, but I'm doing this for you, so whatever the hell's going to happen is primarily going to happen to you. That's why I don't like that. That's what goes against their teachings. Exactly, and see, social media is literally going to be the downfall of, like, all of this. They're losing so many things. That's why I don't trust most Reiki practitioners on that app. Same. I honestly don't, like, there's only a few mediums, a few other practitioners that, like, I'll actually talk to in detail on that app. But other than that, I'm there to, of course, get lost and scroll through fucking videos, but also to actually, like, teach. And the one thing that I always say is I'm going to speak honesty, whether you can handle that or whether you can't. Recently, my last 3 videos that I did yesterday, they were basically on that. They were like PSAs of basically saying, look, just because, like, if you have to flex that you are a powerful witch, that's an insecurity, and 9 times out of 10, you're not a powerful witch. Like, I've never flexed that I'm this powerful all witch that can't be touched. No, because I don't need to. I know my protections are there. And there's this weird mix where people are mixing their following amount with their knowledge to witchcraft, and that's just not a thing. I treat that like my spell work. I don't do anything to my husband unless he asks me to do it ahead of time. Exactly. And like me and my partner, we've talked there. Like I said, there are a couple things that I can do ahead of time, but anything major, anything like that, I'll at least ask, or I'd be like, yo, I'm going to light a candle for you. And he normally knows what that is, because we have code words depending on where we're at, because I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, you know, I have to do this, and this. So normally we'll have code words depending on where we're at in public. But, this guy, because the 3rd chapter in this, so far, it's basically, he tells you stories of historical people and some of them are technically, some of this also goes into like folklore behind the actual real person. But I actually Googled him and did 2 TikToks on it. But listen to some of this shit. Like, I love this guy. Like, if I could ever meet him, I'd love to meet him. And there's only a certain things that I'm actually going to read out of here because I basically. So he was born in Scott County on May 8th, 1836. And they were completely terrified of him because, get this, he was a U.S. Marshal. He was a U.S. Marshal. Piece of advice: make sure your teacher has a pre-degree on what they've learned from online ones or most junk. Yes, and I've actually I mentioned that because this new apparently it's supposed to be a joke in the this new witchy trend that's going on, but I've always been against it, and this is not talking about Reiki. This is actually talking about like the Wiccan. There are certain schools, most of them are Wiccan based, but there are certain online schools that you can basically take courses, and of course you have to pay for it, but you get a certificate of basically a real witch. And people were like basically flexing it, and it was a joke. I didn't know this, but a lot of people, when they see a video, they're going to take it at face value. And I went ahead and I was like, don't waste your money on that. Like, if you want an actual certificate when it comes to witchcraft, just go ahead and print one off. It's easy, but it's a piece of paper. That's one of the things that made me like start straying away from Wicca, was the whole degree system, because I'm like, I understand, but at the same time, I just, no. But no, I know Reiki is completely different because that actually does take training. But he was a marshal with the United States. He was an herb doctor, a spiritualist, and a preacher, and a faith healer. This man was so smart, it is rumored that when he went tracking somebody or hunting somebody down, he would rip the bottom of his shoes, he would rip them off and twist them. That way, when he walked, it looked like he was walking backwards instead of forwards. He basically had 100% success rate on bringing people in, dead or alive. He used herbs. He carried 1 or 2 like little bags of herbs, healing herbs or hexing or jinxing herbs, on his horse with him. But the major thing was he would also preach to basically anybody. And I got confused yesterday because something happened. They also used to call him Killing Rock. Oh yeah, that's what it was. He killed an infamous moonshiner by the name of Iron Mullins, and due to the personal vendetta between the two. This is where my mind was just... So Red Fox was sent to be hung, but not before he preached at his own funeral to hundreds in attendance from all over the southwestern Virginia. With the Red Fox, his faith was the closest thing to him. In his trial, the judge asked him if he had anyone to testify on his behalf. His response was Jesus Christ. That's a new one. He also claimed that he would rise from the dead 3 days after his burial. In the courtroom, he prayed verses showing his own innocence beneath the just judge, and also preached damnation to his enemies, who mysteriously and seemingly died shortly after he died. He was a madman, so they say the least, never admiring guilt from his massacre that resulted for his personal vengeance. His body never rose, but folks say that Red Fox of the mountains is still out there healing and tricking and playing with spirits. The reason that is because I don't know if it's in the book or if I read it online, but it's actually rumored that two of his friends that were also Masons actually like snuck him out, so he was never actually hung officially. But I thought, I don't know why, but I thought that was interesting. There are a couple other ones that I haven't gotten to yet. Yesterday was a little bit more crazier day, but I like the way so far this book is written. I seriously cannot wait until the next book, which I have to finish this one before then. Also, another strange thing that happened to me yesterday that, thanks to the TikTok, I actually got answers for because I could not find any research on it, which was I was always told, I cannot remember it, but I was told that if your shoelace breaks, depending on what foot it is, it's actually an omen of something. I thought it was death, but apparently it's just bad luck. But I had a shoelace break yesterday. Another thing that, if you grew up in the southern states, thanks to a stitch that I did, and one of my a practitioner who's actually becoming a good friend, she started this trend where, like, what were weird things that you were taught when you were, like, younger before you actually started practicing, but eventually kind of ties in with witchcraft. I grew up in Alabama. If you grew up in a southern state, you know that there are multiple things we were told growing up that they called it old wives' tales, which is basically technically superstitions mixed with folk magic. Some of them being if you exit one door, if you exit your front door, you're not supposed to walk back in your back door because it will bring bad luck. There's one about, I think it's your back door or your front door, both doors. You're not supposed to, once you sweep, you're not supposed to sweep it out. I think it's not supposed to sweep it out of your back door. Um, and then what was the other one? Oh, if you break anything, you're not supposed to actually keep it in your house because it will attract negative energy. Um, which most of those I still stand by today. So I technically am supernatural. I'm also off today, but I think it has to do with the fucking Pluto going into retrograde. That was also one thing that was special about the full moon that we just had. It was the last full moon where all planets were actually direct, and now they're not. So this basically is kicked off retrograde month. But from what I understood about Pluto, at least in my chart, it's one of those, like, it may affect you, it may not affect you. It's the planet of birth and or destruction and rebirth. Normally though, the last time it came around, which it goes into retrograde I think it's 6 months out of every year. But I think it was 2018. It was the year that we had, like, I think it was 8 planets in retrograde all at the same time. There was something that I read about Pluto. That's also the planet that brings karma that you have out into the cosmos back to you. Hello. So kind of keep your eye on that. Maybe. And of course, with all retrogrades, I always tell people that it primarily depends on where they're at in your chart. And as long as you don't fixate on them. But there are also multiple stones that you can carry with you depending on the planet that's in retrograde. Which will be and then there are also a couple herbal mixtures that every now and then I've seen where you can actually mix them together and carry with you to, like, prevent anything like that. And then shortly I will be making a video, which I'll post it on here for sure, but I'll be making a video on the, ancestor jar, because I posted about it yesterday, because nobody's talking about ancestor jars on TikTok. And I don't even know if I've seen one on YouTube yet. And they're very simple to make. And it's not it's not part of a closed practice or anything like that. It's just a home for your spirit. There are 2 ways of making them. I was wondering about that. So far, the retrograde this time hasn't really affected me. Is it because I'm a Scorpio? It might be. I've never heard of it until you brought it up. It may be. I'm not for sure. I'm still learning, like, which planet. But I believe that depending on where that planet is in your birth chart, that's kind of the area, or technically it's depending on where that planet is and what house it's in, is depending on what it will actually affect in your, like, what area of life it will actually affect. And I thought it was this, like, known thing, but basically what an ancestor jar is, and I tweaked mine, so the one that I have is not technically a traditional one. I randomly came across it on Pinterest, believe it or not, but I followed the links and it took me to a blog post. And basically it's a fetish, and the word fetish and magic, or metaphysically, basically means you're making a home for a spirit or servant or whatever you're working with. So traditionally, you were supposed to go to the person, your family member, that you wanted to work with, and you were supposed to collect graveyard dirt from their grave and basically bind them to the spirit. Technically falls under the lines of the newer term death magic, but basically necromancy. And I did find out the reason they started calling themselves death witches is because there's a lot of misconceptions about necromancy, and I guess the new name was trying to like divide that. I don't know. But I do not feel right with binding any type of spirit to a vessel. So I created my own recipe of graveyard dirt. And then from there, all the other roots or herbs that go into it, and they can be any of them, but primarily they're focused on spirit communication, psychic ability, along those lines. Basically, spirit communication or amplifies. Like I said, with mine, I have a citrine on the side of it. And then any other thing, like I have snake skin and I have a cocoon in mine. So you can add other things to represent you, and you're basically supposed to stack them. So is that for one spirit or any spirit that you want to work with? This will be slightly controversial, but traditionally when you make a fetish or a spirit home, fetish-wise, as in the dolls, that is supposed to be for like one specific spirit, but the way that I've set mine up is also the way that I practice and the way I set my house up. Any spirit that I'm currently working with, if they want to like kind of hang out and be a home, it can be. So I guess it would be like your intention. If you intentionally make it for a home for only one spirit, or say multiple spirits. But like I said, the way that I have mine set up and our property is, as long as there's no negativity or ill intent with that spirit, they can come and hang out. And I mean, it's so weird too, because it was also brought up in a comment, because I'd also talk about it. So if you make it kind of like a living room where people... Exactly, yes. Now this specific one that I have, it's specifically for my ancestors. But the other fetish that I showed y'all that I made, that's actually for my spirit guides. But yes, essentially it's like a living room for spirits. Is a fetish like a poppet the same thing? Like, if you make a poppet and tag yourself, it would be a separate ritual and draw spirits. Do you need a different doll? Yes and no. If you actually look up magic fetish, most of them are, they're poppets, but not in the mainstream concept of what a poppet is. They're more along the lines of like what I do, the kind of more abstract, because it's kind of also supposed to represent like what that spirit is. And I think you could do both. Now, the one with the spirit would be slightly different, because you would have to call the spirit, and also, and this will change depending on what practice you are and your own personal beliefs, but with me, I'll actually ask if they like it. And normally you'll get like some type of sensation, or you'll get that vibe whether they like it or don't like it. And basically just invite them in. Now, the ritual itself, I have my own, but like there's not a set one that I found. Again, it just depends on your practice. And the reason that I always say fetish instead of poppets is because, which here I don't have to worry about, but like on other platforms I would. People even get poppets confused with voodoo dolls, and they're still having that debate over the whole voodoo, hoodoo, closed and not closed. But there are multiple practices that actually do like work in fetish or fetishes specifically. But it can also be anything. Like, it doesn't have to be a jar. Like, if you really wanted to, that right there could be a fetish. Or get polymer clay and then mix. And that's actually what I did with the dolls that I showed y'all earlier that I made. The clay that I used, the clay that I used was actually, it's clay, polymer clay from Dollar General, but it was actually mixed with herbs that I grinded up and mixed in with it, and then basically baked it, let it dry, and then set it there. Now, depending on what type of path or what type of source you're getting it from, there are certain like rules and regulations. Like it says in this one, when it comes to voodoo dolls, poppets, fetishes, little satchels, you are supposed to take care of them because, like, the way that he describes it in his book, when it comes to, like, mojo bags, if you drop it, some old timers would say that you killed that spirit. And then there's another thing, which is a spectrum, which is basically creating your own entity, basically, or your own spirit to assist you in certain things. It's kind of like that. I mean, the only issue that I've had was I used to have wax built up around mine, and then I left it back there in my craft room when we had mice issues, and they ate it. But other than that, I've never actually... There's only one thing that I've created that I don't know who the hell was in it, but I created this little lavender-eyed ghost-looking creature. I call them crystal creatures. And for some reason, I cannot put him... I think he's up there now, but when I first made him, he would not go on my altar that I have in my living room. Every single time I would sit him up there, the motherfucker would just fall off. I could sit him on the dresser drawer, he's perfectly fine. I could sit him somewhere in here, he's perfectly fine. But if I set him on that altar, the motherfucker would just jump off. And that was kind of my way of basically... That was the ancestors or spirits' way of saying, yo, look, no. Boop. Which is actually another topic that got brought up today, which is a great topic, which is somebody asked another practitioner, how do you actually communicate with your spirits? And she was like, can you stitch this? Because that's very complicated, because it's going to be different with everybody. Because there are certain people that they kind of go a little theatrical with it and like make it sound like they have to go through all these rituals just to speak to their deities or ancestors. And some of them may. But with me, like I said, the Spiritual Day Challenge, I talk to them like I'm talking to y'all now. Now they do, or I do communicate with some of them differently. And the way that I receive them are also different. Sometimes it'll be smells. Primarily, though, that's when like a new ancestor or a new spirit is around. I get flashes in my head sometimes of like actual images or words. I'll know stuff about certain situations that haven't fully played out yet. Specifically with my spirit guides, I actually ask them to meet me in my dream. And most of the time that I do it, there have been a couple of times that if they did, I didn't remember it. But most of all the other times, they'll actually just straight up. For some reason, we always meet at a diner or a restaurant. It's very fucking weird because I've seen this diner / restaurant. I've just never been there, if that makes any sense. But with ancestors or any type of entity that you're trying to communicate with, the number one thing you have to realize is, for one, you're not going to be able to read how to do it in a book because everybody's different. Just like everybody who has the same psychic abilities are different. And then there's also, it will take time. Like I had someone try the Spiritual Day 30-Day Challenge by writing a letter to one of their ancestors and put it up under their pillow, went to sleep, and they were upset because they didn't have a dream. It takes time, especially even for when, if somebody has recently passed away, it takes time for that spirit or those spirits to kind of adjust to where they can kind of go back and forth. Is that like deja vu? Yes and no. Deja vu is kind of, or the way that I experience deja vu, because there's 3 types that I can never remember the words to or how to pronounce them. But there are 3 types of deja vus. There's the deja vu where it's like you've already done this before. That's the traditional deja vu. But I think it's deja vu. It's some weird French word, but the other 2 deja vus that you can experience is one, which is the time loop, where it literally feels like you're just stuck in the same little loop over and over again. I've experienced that twice, and it sucks. And then the other one is the one that I have, which is where you actually you dream of a very small scene. And then when it happens, your brain triggers that memory of you dreaming it. And that's the other deja vu. But the other 2 that I mentioned, they're pronounced slightly differently. But yes, it's kind of like deja vu. I'm trying to think if I've had any other weird experiences before. And then, of course, with animals. Animals are also another way that I can communicate with spirit guides or ancestors. Because I have specifically 4 birds. If I see them act randomly or something like that, I dream it and I see it the same, like deja vu, just are still ahead. Yes, exactly. And with deja vus, they're really cool too because I never knew what they were until what movie was it? There was a movie that I'd watched that had the name Past, Present, and Future. I've dreamed, I've seen, yeah, I've also had deja vu. Like in the moment, and I've also had times where I'm stuck in a time loop too. Oh yeah, then you've experienced them all. The one that's stuck in the time, it sucks. It really, really sucks. Cause see, with me, the one thing I don't like, I don't like experiences where I question my own sanity, and that was one of the moments where I questioned my own sanity. Um, but everybody's gonna be different, and that's the number one thing that's not really talked about is you have all these practitioners talking about all these amazing abilities, but they make it seem like they're rare, and they are, but at the same time, they're not. Anybody in this world can access their psychic abilities. It's going to take time, and it depends on what type of if you've had any trauma, what type of trauma you've had. It also now when I say trauma, I don't necessarily mean like physical life trauma. I also mean like if you've had any type of paranormal experiences that have scared the shit out of you, that's a trauma against your third eye. Which means your third eye is basically protecting you. It's like the ritual that I did when I drew in way too much energy way too fast, and my body literally refused it and threw me down to the ground. Your body's going to do the same thing. So if you've been trying to access your third eye and it won't open, it very well could be that you could experience something when you were younger, paranormal wise, and it scared the shit out of you, so your third eye is just shut. Now, of course, you can open that up, but like I said in the other live, you don't always have to have your third eye open to see spirits. Everybody winds up seeing the shadow people, is what they're called, out of the corner of your eye. You can also see other entities like that too. Yes, true enough, that may be where we get the ability to, but our eyes can see certain frequencies. Or light spectrums, should I say. But, I mean, if you can train yourself to see your aura or to see other people's auras, you can train yourself to see spirits. But it also depends on how you see them. I've met some people like me who I've seen full body apparitions. I used to when I was younger. And then I've seen other people who will sense them or see them in their third eye. The only spirits don't really, like, there are two incidences or two things that could happen that would actually freak me out. For one, spirits of little kids. They freak me the fuck out. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I watched horror movies when I was younger. But no, that freaks me out. And if I could pick between seeing and hearing spirits, I would see them. I would totally rather see a spirit and not be able to hear them versus hearing something and not being able to see it. And that's like this, there was this one thought was like, technically it has to do with Christ, but it's like, just because you don't believe in God doesn't mean God doesn't believe in you. That's the same way with spirits and anything that falls under the realm of spirits, which is just because, and this is not directed at y'all, of course, y'all are practitioners, but the people that are non-practitioners that are starting to get into this, I've heard multiple times and I've seen it on comments, well, I don't believe in this, so it's not going to happen. No, it don't work that way, like, at all. Same here, seeing is for me as well. And see, it's so weird, and I'm also getting into this newer concept where I've realized that a lot of people that I'm actually, like, becoming friends with on that app, I don't know what to call them, but I know one of them is a Luciferian. I think I said that right. Basically, they work with demons, but that's where I'm confused at. I could hear them when I was little. Not that I just feel them around me. I can feel them now. I can feel and sense them. But when I was younger, I used to see them primarily at night. And it freaked me out multiple times. Most times, I think it's a misconception, but because I've only really seen it on paranormal shows, except for the Sally House. That's a mindfuck right there. But, most of the time, if there is a small child there, a lot of people will try to actually distinguish if it is a negative entity. And the reason that is because it does make perfect sense. Like, if I was this big bad demon and I wanted to get close to somebody and possess them, what am I going to do? I'm not going to show up in my form. I'm going to act like I'm this lost little kid, and it'll kind of pull at your heartstrings, so you're more likely to accept it and invite it in, versus something that, you know, growls and snarls and so on. But see, that's what I'm confused at that nobody has explained to me yet, is the people that work with demons, what type of art, I should say, what archetype of demons are you working with? Are you working with like the Christian interpretation of demons or Kabbalah interpretation of demons? Or are you working with something completely different? And that's a question that I should ask. Exactly, that mother's instinct. And with me, I've had two experiences. One, somebody was actually with me that I'm still friends with today. But I had this boy, random fucking, I believe he was about 10 years old, because I want to say I was about 13 or 14, going on 15 possibly. Sorry, I've moved a lot and my timeline's all over the place. But there was this random kid that showed up. He had blue jeans on, like nice blue jeans. He had this white and blue, like Sunday shirt that you would wear. And he had blonde hair and piercing blue eyes. And his name was Billy. And he would follow me around everywhere. Wouldn't say anything, wouldn't talk, didn't scare me. He just followed me around. And then one day, it was just, poof, he was gone. Little blonde girl pops up every now and then. Here at the house, I haven't really seen it. No, I have. That's an experience, because I still don't know what it is. The way the way our neighbor's property is, to both of our next door neighbors, there's like this fence that was there, but a lot of stuff has grown over it, but it's still opened. But the type of trees that we have, they're hanging down low. This happened actually, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? Today's Wednesday. I think it was Monday. I think it happened Monday. I walked outside because I was hanging clothes up, and I think I walked out to get them. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement, but the movement that I saw, it couldn't be a person because none of them were at home, as far as I'm aware. I didn't hear anything. But I saw movement in the tree line, and it was tall, like taller than a human should be. And at first I was like, okay, maybe I saw something, you know, like maybe it was the wind blowing or something. And then as I go back and do the same process, because I had a lot of laundry to bring in, I saw it again, but this time it actually like moved. And I still have no fucking idea what it was. I don't know if it was an actual spirit, as in like an entity. I don't know if it was a land spirit, but something is here. And it's driving me crazy because we have this one window in our hallway, and it's so weird to see it in a trailer because it's basically like a drive-through window. It's basically like that. It's just two rectangular windows, and one of them slides open. And for some fucking reason, every single time, or it doesn't happen every day or multiple times a day, but on certain days, I will walk by there and like not really the corner of my eye, but at the same time, like my vision right here, I will see someone standing outside next to the tree. So I'll run through the living room and look out the bay windows, and there will be nobody there, and I still cannot explain it. She followed me, but I haven't seen her in my new place. Oh, cool. She may be, like, getting used to everything. But the only truly experience that we've had here on this property, minus when I cleansed it, because when we first moved here, I did a live cleansing on my personal Facebook, because there was something here. I don't know what the fuck it was, but there was something here. But we were outside, and we used to, babysit. Well, not really babysit, hang out with them. Anyways, it was two teenagers that, we knew they came over here to hang out and, like, go fishing and shit. And they wanted to experience what it was like to be in a circle. Of course, I had their parents' permission. So I did a circle. Like, I've casted a circle, and the fire's already lit, and I just closed it, and we all look up. And the way my property is, even after the tornado, or the storm system that hit it, the trees that grow around our house basically hide our house. So it's like a canopy. And the trees behind that kind of reach up slightly higher. And we look up, all of us, we all saw it. We saw the exact same thing. We look up, and there is a ball about that big, and it had, like, different layers of, like, kind of light radiating from it, and it flew. It went through the trees, out of the trees, over the trees, and just vanished into thin air. And that was like one of the first months that we stayed here. And I looked at my partner and I'm like, well, obviously there's some type of spirits here, because holy shit. And that's the second time I've seen something like that. The first time was on the property that we had moved there prior to on the 4th of July, which I was talking about that the other day in my Discord. But we saw this giant orange glowing fucking orb. Like, I'm talking giant, like that big. And it was orange. It was like almost like that. It was almost like neon orange with like slightly burnt red to it. And it did the same thing. It literally just was, it wasn't really like soaring or anything. It was just kind of like gliding through. And it went through some of the branches, and you could see the branches being illuminated from behind it. And then it came into clear sight, and then it went up into the tree and just vanished. It wasn't a drone. There was no sound. There was no buzzing. There was no electrical sound. No nothing. And to this day, I don't know what they are, because I didn't know that you could actually see orbs like that versus seeing them in photos. But I also haven't fully did a ritual outside here on this property in a really long time. I need to, but it's still getting the equipment that I need here. Which is one of the reasons that I have not filmed that video yet. Because I've got to weed eat around my circle. And then, excuse me, if I can get it in time, because y'all saw some of the property in pictures and stuff. There's a lot of like beach area before you hit the water. And what I'm trying to do specifically, because around like 4, 5, and 6, when I get up in the morning time, the moon is directly in front of our house. So what I'm planning on doing is actually moving my circle closer to the water, but not too close, because we do have gators. And then I'll be able to actually do full-on rituals before anybody around me gets up. Because I already know nobody around here normally that's in like viewing distance is normally up at like 4 something in the morning. So I think that would be the perfect time. Plus the moon is at a very, very high reach then. So that's going to be interesting. It's just getting the equipment, because I don't drive and my partner works basically either 5 to 6 days a week. But, there was something else that I wanted to talk about, and now I can't flip and remember. Oh, the honey jar is going very well. I've actually had about, I want to say 11 or 12 people join in, so I'm super excited about it. I cannot wait until I make it. I charged everything. I've got the petitions behind me, actually. Charged them, charged the honey, the few crystals that I'm putting in it, and all the herbs and extra stuff that I'm putting in it has already been charged. So I was thinking, what do you think about making an ancestor candle as a beacon to come to the jar? That is actually a really good idea. I support that 100%, because especially, and this could go for both. This could be if you've worked with your ancestors and if you've never worked with your ancestors. That's also another way that you can work with your ancestors. You can either make a candle like you suggested as a beacon, or if you don't really like messing with candles or like leaving them lit, go out and get the LED candles and set a small space up and just voice that. Because when I had the psychic read me, when she read my cards, she actually told me that. She's like, the spirits are ready for you. You just have to let the universe know that you are ready to receive. And that was that clicking moment, that defining moment in my path where I was like, holy shit, why have I never thought about that before? Just like straight up telling the universe, yo, I'm ready to receive. Let's go. Let's start doing this. And that's what kind of kick-started. Hello. But yes, I wholeheartedly agree with that. Totally light a candle. And other things that I do to work with my ancestors or to feel closer to them is if you have anything that they use in the kitchen, use that. I have a crock pot, so when I use that crock pot, it's like I'm doing the exact same steps that they used to. And then this part may sound slightly morbid, but my grandmother had a bottle of perfume, and it smells literally like spring. I have it. So, like, those moments where I need to feel like I'm closer to her, I will spray some on me. And that's another thing, like colognes, perfumes, even makeup. If you have any of that from any of your ancestors, you can wear that, and that's a way of communicating with them, because it's like talking. Um, in some cultures, like, they don't really like to talk about people that have passed away before. But that's how you're showing remembrance, telling old stories and laughing and cutting up and all of that. That's communicating with your ancestors, and that's working with your ancestors. And you can still work with your ancestors and your deities. Now, the question that's come up multiple times is, what happens if they were Christian? In my opinion, in my practice, or in my beliefs, I believe that the whole religious aspect, that's a human aspect. So when they pass away and they go over to the other side, they're not really going to care. I mean, you may have some that actually stick with that whole Christian church, no witchcraft thing. And if so, then by all means, tell them that. Be like, look, stay on your side and stay on my side. I have an aunt who's kind of like that. Like, I've only felt her presence probably about 3 or 4 times since her passing. But that was also because we didn't really have a very close relationship in the living. But I know when she's around because she was a pothead. So, like, if I smell ganja, then I know she's around. Especially if I'm not smoking it. I know that she's around. And then, like, Nanny with my grandmother, I actually had a cast iron skillet that was passed down from my great-great-grandmother to my grandma to my mother and now to me. Imagine all the struggle Mills made in that thing. Oh, that is awesome! And see, that's so weird synchronicity in my life, I guess. I actually saw a video about a guy on TikTok who, like, makes cast iron skillets. And that's what he was saying. He's like, all these people like this non-stick stuff, but yet a cast iron skillet, especially the ones that you pass down through generation, do you know how much stories and, like you said, struggle meals are actually made in it because it's seasoned so much? So, like, you're literally being able to tap into, like, the full essence of your ancestors. And that's amazing. That's an amazing thing. It's like, in the places, not really here in the United States, but, like, overseas in the UK, like, all the places, Ireland, Scotland, all the places that actually still have, like, structures that are still standing and in good shape from way back then. It's like that. It's like being able to touch something that, these people have done hundreds of years. I have a small, technically it's a dagger, but technically it's a knife. It's basically off of, I forgot what they're called, a bayonet. The blades that's off the top of a gun. I have one in there, and you can feel the history. There's a, father-in-law, there we go. He has a gun from World War II, and then he has a gun that was used in the Wild West. I will not touch them. I touched them twice, and I will not do it again, because no. And see, that is a type of psychic ability. If you've ever touched something really, really old, and you've actually gotten flashes in your head, that's a type of a clairvoyance. But it's with sensing. I don't know the proper names of all the clairs that there are. There are like 7 or 8 of them. But that is a type of, like, psychic ability, because what you're doing is you're tapping into the imprint on that said item, and you can actually, like, relive it basically in your head. And there's one medium that does have a TV show. A lot of people call her fake. I don't know if she's fake or real, but I love the way she does it, because there's another medium that I saw on TikTok. She acts the exact same way, which is the Dead Files. It's Amy from the Dead Files. I love the way that she channels and talks to spirits, because that's how I've done it. I've not done it in a while. I have not tried to channel a spirit. But there have been a few readings that I've given, and in those readings, like, I started basically channeling their ancestors. I would say things and phrases that it's not really in my vocabulary. But Amy, in those shows, if you watch them, they really, like, she really, like, basically you can tell she's truly channeling. Same, like, my partner actually, like, I'd seen a couple of her shows, but I was just like, kind of feels cheesy, but eh. And then my partner watched them and fell completely in love with them. And ever since then, because I used to like the Long Island Medium, but they've basically proven her fake. Which, I mean, in nowadays, and then the one that, yes, exactly. It's the way that she explains things, because you can tell she's feeling those emotions. And that's, like, currently right now, and that was another thing I wanted to address. I've said that the veil is thinning, or the veil is extremely thin. And of course, on the spiritual side, they've all said it, and the mediums have also said it. But somebody actually asked me in a comment, they're like, I don't sense anything. So, like, what, am I doing something wrong? I think this was actually on Discord. They asked, like, am I doing something wrong or something along the lines of that? Yet, no, for one, you're not doing anything wrong. I do believe that people on TikTok do hype things up, because it's like the saying, drama sells. Like, there's no such thing as bad publicity, because either way, good or bad, they're talking about you. But I think that's what it is. There was this one woman that I used to follow when I first started, and she would show these energy graphs. And she's like, oh, yep, there you go. See there, we got another huge energy spike. And when I first started following her, like, I actually, like, the things that were going on in my life for that particular day kind of matched with the video. Until somebody asked her, well, what site are you using? And she goes, oh, I make these. And I'm like, the way that she was talking about it was like they were from, like, NASA or something like that, and, like, huge energy shifts and huge energy waves. Come to find out, she just makes them. That's what I don't like. I hate people like that. I don't hate her. I just hate people like that. Like, I was asked the other day that I should do more readings on TikTok with my cards, because a lot of people didn't even know that I read cards. The only problem is, it's extremely hard to do an intuitive reading while in a 60-second format. I mean, they have finally started rolling out 3-minute videos. Can't wait for that. And I finally got closed captions. And I also finally broke my goal. I'm currently at 4,600 and I think 10. So that was a goal that I was definitely trying to break. But I'm also going to start distancing myself from TikTok. I'm still going to make them, but I've got to stop getting caught in, like, just scrolling through and scrolling through and scrolling through. Because I've got these books to read, so much other shit. Basically, I'm slowly working myself into a system. Not to mention, I've also realized the more that I've used TikTok, the worse my ADD is getting. Because, like, there are some days where I have trouble sitting down watching a TikTok or watching a YouTube video without closing it out. That is another thing. That was what it was. Okay, so I was actually shocked because this particular guy, apparently he's really big, and he actually followed me after that. But this one guy was making videos of, like, things they should have been told before starting their spirituality. And this one particular one I had to stitch because it totally hit home. If you are neurodivergent or neurotypical, basically the things between that is ADHD, ADD. If you're on the autism spectrum, those are neurotypical. Or no, those are neurodivergent. Neurotypical are people that don't have ADHD. They don't have, they're not on the scale of autism, and they don't have anything like that. So the people that do, me, I have ADD and ADHD. it's just like in school. We're not going to learn like all the other classes are. So, and in the video, he was like, once I accepted that, it completely changed everything. And the way he put it into perspective, it clicked in my head. That's one of the reasons with me is I'll wind up seeing someone's post, or I'll see someone who was talking about starting a business, and then literally 3 months later, they're full on selling stuff. And I wind up basically, we talked about it before, I wind up comparing my path to their path. And just don't. If you start to compare your path to another path, just stop whatever you're doing and like go clear your head, because it will spiral you. You will completely go spiral. And the reason that is because I've been talking about doing all this amazing things, and then, life, just things are not adding up for me to be able to do it right now. So I had to tell myself that, and then I had to stop and look back. Which I've always said this, there's sometimes everybody's like, look forward, look forward. No, sometimes we need to look back to see how far we've come, because I was one of those students, due to the very poor education system in Alabama, where basically most of my teachers told me that I wouldn't go anywhere in life, that like I was basically wasting space. And then I have to also tell myself and to remind myself that yeah, there are people out there that have the same issues that I have, and they're doing more things than I am. Okay, great, granted. But there are also people that don't have to struggle with their own mind and bodies every single day just to get through life. And that's where we need to make that decision at. Because if you have anything that falls under the lines of like mental health or autoimmune or anything like that, you have to incorporate that into your practice. You have to tell yourself, look, I understand all these people are doing all these things, but I'm doing what I can with what I got. And my partner has to remind me of this all the time, because the older I'm getting, I'm turning into like a perfectionist or OCD, one or the other. And he has to tell me, he's like, look, what you do in a day, I couldn't do it. Even though he physically works every day, he's like, all the things you do around here, I couldn't do it. He goes, but you can, and you're succeeding in it. Like you're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's just because like I don't see that. Because with me, like yesterday was a good example, and the day before that, for some reason my depression has just been kicking my ass, and it's like I'm in that zone where like I just don't have any drive. Except for this. I don't have an issue with doing lives. I don't know what it is, or doing magic. But anything else, it's like I have no drive. But, so basically yesterday was one of my relax days and also research days. I think it was 2 or 3 YouTube videos that I shared about people being in Appalachia, and like, it's actually, they don't have a lot of videos on YouTube about like, let me rephrase that. They don't have a lot of updated videos on folk magic or Appalachian magic. I show my mom your videos and she loves you. Oh, thank you. Oh. But yeah, you have to tell yourself that too. And if you don't, you're going to wind up burning yourself out. And it sucks because it's extremely frustrating, but always know that your deities, your spirit guides, your ancestors, they know and understand that, we struggle a little bit, and that's okay. Like, everybody got so all up in the thing about, because apparently the new term is like lazy witch. I don't like that. I don't like why everybody is just adding on to this shit. Why can't we just be witches? Like, for example, there are 2 creators, and I seriously wish that, like, they would actually be kicked off the app. There's a male and female. They basically look identical. They have white hair, white eyeliner, and the first one is, I think it's Witch Boy Talk, and I don't know what the second one is. And I've talked about these 2 people before. But they're the videos where, like, this one guy was like, here's how to activate your fire chakra. And he stitched that video, and he's like, now if it works, you can do this. And he held a piece of paper like right here, and it caught on fire. You can obviously tell he had a lighter behind it, but magic does not work that way. And if it does, you're not going to see it on an app. No, like if I could literally look at stuff and set it on fire, I'm not going to go online and tell everybody that. I hate being asked what kind of witch I am. People trying to find out what kind they are. I know, and I don't understand where this came from. Like, of course, there have always been certain types, like green witch. What is it? It's green witch, kitchen witch, Wiccan. And then, as far as I know, that's basically it. Now you got sea witches, crystal witches, moon witches, herb witches, death witches, plague witches, and I'm like, can't we just be witches? Like, I mean, if you have an aesthetic that goes with your witchcraft, that's different. Tell people that. And it's like the two people that I'm talking about, because they're the people that's like, draw this symbol on your hand, or, you know, do this, and you'll be able to make a deal and all your dreams will come true. Of course, people that are seasoned in spirituality or witchcraft, they're going to understand that's fake. But there are so many impressionate minds that will see that video and take it at face value. And as much as I love the movie in general, there were a lot of issues. But the new the new Craft Legacies, that was the one thing that I did not like about it, is because the way that they set it up about how to become a witch. The first step is telekinesis or talking with your minds. The second step is levitation, and then fire. That's going to set an entire generation up for a failure. And now we're in this weird thing where, like, there's so many practitioners out there teaching that nobody knows who to go with. And except for me, well, kind of. I don't actually do videos like most practitioners do. Like, I'm not going to go in very detail about stuff, but I'll give you enough information and the resources to go from there. As humans, we depend on guidelines and labels as functions and identity and parts of awakening and learning. For energies, has no guidelines. For a lot of people, that is confusing and can be frustrating. I do see that, kind of. It bugs me, because I'm like, well, can't we just be witches? Like, and that's another thing that still nobody is talking about, that I need to start talking about. I've seen so many practitioners on that app, some of them really, really big, the OG ones. None of them are talking about how to work with energy. They're focusing on deities, or, you know, it infuriates me, because I'm like, so wait. I'm actually, like, basically living this life of teaching and, like, sending people, you know, helping as many people as I can. And then these people go up, they use one filter that basically gives them black eyes, and they go from side to side talking like their deities, talking to them. And they get hundreds of thousands of views. And I'm like, so apparently, which, I mean, that's kind of TikTok. The most views will be some of the stupidest, randomest shit. But y'all know me. I don't do it for views. But at the same time, I never, like, last week, I think it was last week, I was shadow banned hardcore, which a lot of other practitioners were too. But, like, and I've set myself up to where, like, I'm not about the views. But, like, if I'm going to spend 2 hours making 4 TikToks, or, like, say 5 or 6 TikToks. Because normally I like to try making at least, like, 8 or 9 TikToks a day. Normally, though, I'll make them first thing in the morning and then save them in my drafts and then republish them throughout the day. But, like, I'm like, which I posted a video about it. I'm like, I know that you like liking videos, and you can like every video that I have, but also comment on that video, because it fucks up the algorithm. So it'll throw you in a Facebook jail, basically, if somebody goes through a liking spree without commenting. Which I've also done the same thing, but I do try to, like, leave some type of random comment. But I was like, I'm not doing it for the views. I'm not being paid for this, but I also want to make sure that, like, I'm not wasting my time. Which I have to do a couple of videos after I do my lives, because I mentioned the ancestor jar, and there was one comment that's like, can we get more information on that? And I'm like, sure. But it's cool though. I will say it is cool. And I do understand the intrigue towards TikTok because you can sit down and basically go all over the fucking world and see things that you would never be able to see in your entire life. The only problem is it's too fucking addicting. There have been 2 days on the weekends where I've literally, besides doing my chores, just TikTok when I should have been reading. Funny story though, I got to show my partner yesterday how my ADD brain works. Because, like, he's seen it, but he hasn't fully seen it. So yesterday, I had to refill my water bottle. I walk into the kitchen to refill my water bottle. Instead of refilling said water bottle, I changed the cat litter. I walked outside and brought all the clothes that I was drying inside. Walked back to the cat room, changed their cat litter, put his beer in the refrigerator, and I did like 4 other things, and then walked out of the kitchen and sat down on the bed and stared at my phone for about 10 minutes. And then my brain's like, water. And I'm like, oh yeah. That is literally how somebody with ADD is. And it sucks. Because if I could train it, which the pill, not pill, I can't say pill. The supplement that I've been taking actually has been helping. Like, it's not giving me like the Adderall effect, but it's like making my mind clearer and sharper. So I'm actually remembering things, staying on top of things, and getting slightly more organized. And then there was something else, because something else is coming up, and I can't freaking remember it. What is coming up? We just had the Willow Moon. Oh! Beltane. It's the worst, yes, ADD. It really does, because, like, and this is one of the reasons I'm also struggling with the books that I'm reading, especially this one, because it's so in detailed, and it goes over different things, versus, like, this one is basically all about this. But with this, which I love, but with this, he goes into, like, stories and folklore and stuff like that to explain or give an example of why that practice is. And with my ADD, I can sit down and read an entire chapter and then wind up having to go back and reread it because I can't remember the information that I just read. I know it's there, I just have trouble accessing it. But yes, May Day is coming up, or Beltane, the Fire Festival. A couple of things that y'all can do for that if y'all do celebrate it. One thing that I'll be doing, because I also think I did it last year as well, a releasing spell. This will be the perfect date to anything that you've been holding on to, releasing that shit. I also believe, and I can actually check because I have one of the oldest books. I will also show y'all one of the oldest and one of my very first books that I've ever gotten. And it's by Lucy Summers. I'm trying to see when it was printed. It was copyrighted in 2001, and the particular one that I have was printed in 2006. And it is the book, I told y'all, it's like very damaged. But it's the Book of Wicca. Bring love, healing, and harmony into your life with the power of natural magic. I hate to say it, but I'm really not a huge fan of Doctoring the Devil. I have a really hard time paying attention to it. I want to try the Crooked Path next. That's what I'm kind of having the same issues with it, so I definitely feel you on that one. The Crooked Path, you will definitely be able to, like, keep up with it very well. But yeah, no, I will say that, which I haven't finished it yet, so, like, I do still have a long ways to go, but it is, for someone with ADD, I would suggest, instead of actually getting the book, just getting the, getting the audiobook. See, that's also one of the reasons I can't use audiobooks, because unless I'm not doing anything while I'm listening to said audiobook, my brain will not comprehend anything that I just learned. But I wanted to check something before I actually said it. This is also the book that I got the flower meditation from, or visualization technique from. No. Beltane. Okay, so here we go. Here are some things. I get to do audio with the books. Backwoods Witchcraft. I listened to the whole thing within a couple of days and I loved it. Yes, now that one I did love. I didn't listen to the audiobook. I read the book, but I also, while I was reading the book, there are, I think there are 2 major interviews he did right after the book was published. One's on YouTube and one's on Spotify. I listened to those while I read it. I learned that from high school. Huh. But here's some things about Beltane, or May Eve. Let's see. No, that's the Beltane rite. Decorate the circle with hawthorn, blackthorns, black oak, and water oak. Appropriate colors are green and white, and play frolic games and elect a May Queen. The one festival more or less left alone by Christians, Beltane lives in the popular tradition in the phallic shape of the maypole. Basically, the maypole is supposed to represent the male. The ribbons are supposed to represent the female. It's a fertility, specifically and primarily celebrated as a fertility ritual or holiday. The ribbons and twines wrap around during the maypole dance, as seen as the females and their union, actually symbolizing mating with the god and the goddess. In ancient times, cattle were driven between 2 bonfires to ensure their fertility, and human sexuality was celebrated in the greenwood marriage and staying up to watch the sunrise. Today, things have been toned down a little bit. There are usually no cattle, the bonfires are a little smaller, and any sacred marriages generally take place between established couples in private. See, I thought this was a day where, I thought it was a day where the fairies are closed. I could be wrong. I think I am wrong. But, yeah, and that's coming up May 1st. That's also the day that I'm hoping to be able to actually do the the community honey jar. Because the only holidays that I primarily celebrate is Beltane. Or not Beltane, oh my god. Moon dance. Is there a ritual? Moon dance. I mean, there's a ritual in here. Is a Beltane rite. Add 3 drops of cinnamon to the oil, almond oil. Place on the altar. If you are working outside, 2 small bonfires. Walk around 3 times in a dowsing direction, declaring, "Summer is coming. The Belfest shall be lit. Time for celebration. Time to make merry. Time to be ourselves and no one else. Time to bless and time to be blessed. So light the fires. Summer is coming. Light the fires. Summer is coming. Light the fires. Summer is coming. Light the fires that we should know love. Light 2 of the candles or the fires. Step between them. Staring at the south and finishing at the altar, anoint yourself with the oil and forehead, and then you say, let the mind be free, let the mind be free, and let the mind be free." Ha! Mabon. That's what I was thinking of. Mabon is one of the only holidays that I actually celebrate, and I don't know why. Well, and of course, Samhain. I don't really celebrate Yule that much, though. And I actually don't know that much about Lilith. I also don't even know how to research on Lilith, because every time I Google it, all the Christian stuff comes up. Now, the one thing that I am excited about doctoring the witches, or that, doctoring the devil, is the chapter 13, which I'm going to call like the cheat sheets. because he lists of like all the ways to like remove curses and hexes for those witched into love. If your money has been doctored, your health, conjure root killers, reversal work, zodiac signs and their current parts. Oh wow, I didn't even know that. Signs for working. List of herbs and their curios, which I'm very excited about. And then I'm also excited to read about the bones. Sorry, not audio. Talk is not working midsummer. My audio's not working? Is my audio working now? It may be my headphones. I can hear. Okay. But, and then I want to do something around the summertime. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, now I see what you're talking about. I was confused at first. Okay. I know this spring, or not this spring, this fall, I'm going to do a video and a live while I make witch's brew, which is extremely easy to make. And I originally got the idea from, which I don't know if her videos are still up, because I no longer follow her, because she's kind of branched away from witchcraft. Charming Pixie Flora on YouTube is where I got the recipe from. But I make it every year, or I try to make it every year, and it's basically like apple cider with a couple of other like fruits and spices in it, and then rose petals, and then what I do, which this is optional, I add rum. I add dark rum to it. But I want to start doing things like that too. It's just, I've got to get this room set up, and right now, which I may have been able to fix it, but all my partner's tools are at his work. Yes, her old videos did rock, but for some reason, she, like, completely moved out of that. Witch's Brew. It's a drink. But I started making it, and then who did I make it with? I forgot who I originally made it with. And then I made it for my partner, and he fell in love with it. But all my partner's tools are at his work, and he keeps forgetting to bring them home. And I have to rig my bookshelf, because if I put all my books on it now, it's going to... Charmy Pixie Flora. Oh, my neighbors probably think I'm crazy now. I did not realize my window was open and they are outside. But yeah, and then the interviews, yes, thank you. The interviews that I've set up right now, whenever I get a chance to do the interview with Jake Richards. So we have Jake Richards, and then we have the traditional witch, and then, hold that thought. Oh, okay. And then we have the, who I'm calling, my brain is going blank right now. My Appalachian auntie, or aunt, I'll be interviewing her. And then Kieran, the guy who wrote The Crooked Path. And then I'm hoping, I would love to, if I can get in contact with him, eventually the guy who wrote Southern Cunning. I would love to interview him. And then I think, what day is it? I think it's next Monday. Possibly next Monday, I will be doing the interview on, I think it's Dancing in the Graveyard. On their property, then sit back and watch the show. Kidding, that's really rude. Oh no, not that neighbor. It's, because, see, I have a neighbor on this side of me, neighbor on this side, and then we have the neighbor, the crazy one behind us. But the woman who lives over here, she's been here for like 47 years. So she's like the kind of the matriarch, I guess, of this little hollow that I live in. She's cool. I mean, she used to be taxidermy, but she's also that woman that, like, you do not show up at her house because she will shoot you first. When the storm hit, that was the one that me and my partner wanted to go check on, because, like, we didn't see any movement, we didn't see any lights, and all the other neighbors that were walking around was like, yeah, that's just wait, because she has guns and she likes using them. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to get shot by checking on her. I think but the podcast that I'll be interviewed on, I think it's Gathering at the Graveyard or Gathering in the Graveyard. I'm going to share a link to it after this episode. But she is the Death Witch that I interviewed. It was about 3 months ago. I think it was back in January. Possibly. No, it was last year. Anyways, she was the one that I interviewed. And then I have a couple other people that I got to get up with and see when I can interview them and what would be a good time. And then, like I said, somewhere midsummer, I'll probably take a break from the interviews and podcast, and then focus on YouTube. It is exciting news. There is a very exciting news, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to do it. But Anchor just rolled out a subscription plan. And what this basically means is I can set the price, but the cool thing is until 2023, I think it's until 2023, all the revenues from that will go directly into my pocket instead of like now. Like now, every single episode that you make on Anchor, if you add a promotion or like basically the intro to mine where you where I talk about how like good Anchor is, I want to say it's like 5 or 10 cents. I'm not for sure of the actual price, but basically every play that I get on that episode, I get money for it. And then they take a small portion of it. And then when you hit 1,000 plays, which I've already hit, basically it adds up to $15, and then it just keeps going. So every episode that I have out, whether it's old or new, if it has that thing in it, I get paid for it. Well, they're starting this new thing. They're testing it. I've already entered. I'm waiting to actually hear back from them to see if they'll actually let me. But if I understand it right, I'll be able to make special episodes that will only be subscription only. And I don't know if I'm going to do it or not, but it is a way for me to slowly bring in some money so I can start reinvesting it into this. My ultimate investment is to save up and actually get a camera. That way when I do make videos on YouTube, it'll be like good content. Because I can make it on here. The only thing I'm not used to is if I turn the camera like this, the little camera screen is down here. So like I gotta get used to that. But I have bigger goals that I'm going to be saving up for, which is one of the reasons I'm doing the honey jar. Because if that's a success, I'm probably going to try to do it every month or every other month, and get that worked out, because with the Discord and everything like that, my ultimate goal is, because I've already talked to one company about it, before I can get a company to promote me, or, you know, where they give me like a 5% or 5% off your next order discount code, I have to basically pull all of my stats from everything that I do online, from Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, pull those all together and then basically put it in portfolio and then go to them and be like, hey, so I wanted to see, you know, so-and-so, or if I could test their products and basically advertise about it. Because there's 3 companies that I want to, it's just one of them's going to be, depending on what state, it's going to be slightly controversial. But that's basically what it is. That's my ultimate goal for this year, is to actually get somebody who will actually sponsor me so I can make more content. And then with interviewing these people, specifically these authors, I'm hoping that they'll also share it, and then it'll get other people's attentions, and, you know, by next year, I'll have, well, primarily like a more set in stone foundation. And then very soon, once I hit my 100 episode on my podcast, I'm going to be changing my look. Because I got to redo the banner on this. It definitely needs a makeover. And then I'll be redoing the artwork on there. And then I'm in the process of, because what I did not know is you can also, through Anchor, you can set up a WordPress for a website. So that's also in the works. I don't know what I'm going to do on it yet. But eventually, my all-time goal within the next 5 years is to actually get my own website up and running and no longer be able to, like, basically have my own platform where I can go live without having or being suppressed. Because Facebook, man, some of my posts will, like, see a lot of people and then other ones won't get anywhere, and it drives me crazy. Also, I wanted to ask y'all, if I do any updates, what do y'all see first? Do you actually see my post, or would you see my story first? Because that's what I wanted to know. Because if that's the case, then if I do make an update midday without having to go live, I'll just post it in my story. But I don't know, because like the stuff that I was posting or I talked about in Tuesday's live, I posted it right after that. And I don't know if everybody got to see it, but I posted all the links that I had up or that I talked about with the books, and then the times, and I think I still have, okay, a post. I get notification. Okay, good. See, I didn't know if the notification thing actually worked, if you do get notifications. But yeah, okay, so that's what I'll do. And then I've got to start, going live on TikTok. Going live on Instagram to get that back up. But yeah, really quick, I'm going to pull a card, and then I'll pull a crystal too. So I'll pull a card and then I'll pull a crystal instead of pulling an herb. Change it up a little bit. Today has been so weird because, oh, thank you. It feels so later than it actually is. Like when I first started doing this, or when I first went live and I looked at the clock and I'm like, oh, wow, it's still early as shit. This day's going by very slow. No, I think it's the way that I'm sitting too. But it always happens like this. When I sit like this for a long period of time, I have like two muscles right there that basically just knot up. But I got something in the other room that I think it was the Live Oak Coven sent me for Yule, that Durin muscle rub. And shit, that shit works. I will definitely tell you that shit works. But it's also technically toxic. And then I also have a bowl packed over here. It's just I'm waiting until I get offline to do that. Because the last thing I need is somebody coming in, seeing my live, and blocking it. And then my ultimate goal, which I actually have it on my Amazon list, is I want to get to a point to where I may not be able to sell or ship out multiple things, but I do want to get to a point where I can make mini honey jars and actually ship them to people. Because if not, I'm going to wind up having this, like, giant table full of candles and honey jars, which would also be cool. Okay, hold on. I'm not shuffling these right. Because we just got the same card that we have gotten for the past 3 times of me doing this. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Okay, that one fell out, so we'll do this one. Oh, great. For some reason, every time I shuffle these, I keep getting the freaking death card. That's my ultimate goal, is to be able to actually ship them out. It's just with my partner's complicated fucking job. There are a couple things that I would have to work out because I can like set up a date with the post office to where I meet them there, but I still have to work on getting a printer so I'll be able to print them off. What is the price that hangs the lowest? Hangs the lowest. Oh, this one? It is lavenderite, smoky quartz, citrine, and another crystal point. As soon as I get it to where I can, I definitely will. But like I said, right now I have multiple things that I have to work on getting before I can actually start shipping stuff out. Because like I said, I don't drive. And then my partner's constantly working. And then the days that he is off, except for Saturday, I'd be able to. But I still got to work on getting a printer so I can actually like print out the stuff. Thank you. And then I still have to work on getting my laptop fixed. That way I can actually hold up with everything. But as soon as I get those, which I'm slowly manifesting, as soon as I get those, I'll be able to actually like at least do it for where probably I'll do it to where I'm only taking like 3 or 4 orders and then get those shipped out and then all of that. But before I attempt to do it, I want to make sure I have everything set up. That way it's no failures or anything like that. Okay, so the 2 cards that we got is the Tower and 7 of Cups. Same, I love smoky quartz, citrine, and one of my favorite stones, lavenderite, and then the moonstone that I have. Okay, the Tower. Unexpected upheaval. When the Tower card appears, it's time to brace yourself for change. The well-rooted tree that's been growing strong for decades is crashing down around you. Your world may feel as though it's literally falling apart and you didn't see it coming. Even though this phase is painful and confusion, it will be over soon. You'll look back and feel grateful things changed course. You might even set it as a personal breakthrough in the end. All right. And then 7 of Cups. This one confuses me so much because I see the sun, so I automatically want to do it like that, but it's actually like that. The 7 of Cups is not the most welcoming card. It indicates you'll face temptations in many aspects of your life, whether it's cheating for pleasure or for money. You'll soon realize you've been building a house of cards. You may feel as though you can't see clearly, can't judge right from wrong or up from down. This is the spell of the 7 of Cups. It is best to remove yourself for a while, set back until you can see straight again. I feel called out. Honestly, I feel called out on both of them. Well, not really on this one, but this one right here, I damn sure feel called out on. So yeah, there's y'all's advice today. Basically, just watch out for this. Some situations will be changing. But also, the best advice when it comes to any type of argument or any type of situation like that, just take yourself out of it. Even if it's to look and view it, that's the best advice I've ever gotten from my partner, which is if there's any situation that you cannot, like you can't see yourself out of or like figure it out, take yourself out of the equation and look into it like you're a third person. Okay. And then, let's see what crystal we get. Bum-ba-da-bum. Ooh. Here we go. Black granite. Or melanite. Black granite. Specifically with the whole closing practice stuff, TikTok stuff. Take myself out of it. Exactly. I have too. I've kind of stopped talking about it finally. And luckily nobody has actually came and like, because two people that did start talking about it, it was primarily hoodoo and voodoo, and they were reading books on it. The entire weekend, they were literally being cussed out in the comments. And I'm like, see, I don't want that on my page, because I realize there comes a point where in certain situations when you go to talk to somebody, it's like talking to the mortar between the brick on the brick wall, and it's just a waste of time and energy because they're not going to change their minds and they're going to think they're right at the end of the day. So, but okay, black granite. On the hardness scale, it's a 6.7. The system is cubic, and the chakras are for Earth Star, and Root, which I don't know what Earth Star is, but okay. Physical healing. Granite is a black titanium bearing visuals of garnet with the skeleton system and encourages absorption and assimilation of calcium to strengthen the bones. It stimulates growth and helps elongate and strengthen the spine. Alrighty then. And spiritual healing, black garnet, I said granite, black garnet is both grounding and protective. It is an ideal stone for psychic development and shamanic journeying. An ally to highly sensitive people, black granite can help empaths learn to identify and separate foreign energies and emotions from their own. Looks like I'll be getting my hands on some black granite. But yeah, that's going to be today's live. Thank y'all everybody for joining in, for the likes, the shares, the comments. Y'all know everything. If y'all have any questions or anything like that, feel free to shoot me a direct message or come join the Discord. Supposed to be located below your feet. Oh, okay. See? Okay, so it actually goes, that's more on the actual less Western style chakras. Yes, have a great day. I hope you all have a great day. And what's tomorrow? Thursday. I will see y'all tomorrow as long as nothing comes up. Until then, I hope y'all are all having a great Wednesday. Thank you and peace.